Right, good morning everybody. Welcome to the world under lockdown, this strange place we find ourselves. I just wanted to do a video, or maybe a couple of short ones, as a basic and informal reminder about what we do when we practice our art. Now, it may be a while before we're back on the range with the current circumstances, so let's have a look at how we can set up a practice routine at home. Now, a lot of this stuff, I think, ideally, we should be doing on an ongoing basis. Your dry firing, exercise routines, that sort of stuff. So there's nothing untoward or very different about what we already know and understand, and might be well worthwhile just emphasizing some of these points. So nothing new. I'm going to primarily think about it from an ISSF perspective, but you must remember that if you're shooting NPA or PPC, there's only two differences. That is your stance and your grip that are slightly different. All the other principles are exactly the same. Minor modifications here and there. I think if you're going to be handling a firearm, obviously safety is of primary importance. Make sure the firearm's unloaded and always pointed in a safe direction. Once again, nothing new in that. We are all adult responsible firearm owners, just a gentle reminder. Let's just talk about eyesight for a minute. Now, I know some of my friends who shoot have issues with their eyesight, and they might wear spectacles, which is fine. The point is, are those the right spectacles for your shooting? For a young person, your eyes are very adaptable. You can accommodate focusing on various distances as we get older. Not so easy. We have to wear these things on our faces, in front of our eyes. Now, what you need to see your front sight. So if I'm shooting ISSF, I'm standing in more oblique position, we'll get onto that. I'm holding up, my front sight's over there. It's approximately 1 meter from my eye's lens. If we're shooting NPA, I'm standing square onto the target and I'm coming up. The front sight is a little bit closer. So you need to, not all of us maybe, but I certainly have different glasses I use for shooting NPA and for ISSF because of that. My eyes, I do have eye problems, and that's just one way to try and help that. The other thing is, are you sure you know which is your master eye? So if you come up and you do that, you are pointing with, in my case, my right eye. So what do you do with your left eye? Some people close it up, scrunch up their face. That's not a good idea for a couple of reasons. Number one, it causes tension in the muscles of your face. You want to relax. You want to be focusing on the right things. Secondly, for this eye completely closed, it causes a reactive movement of the iris in your open eye. So effectively it dilates a little bit. You don't want to do that. So what I do is either if I'm wearing a pair of spectacles, I'll just put an ordinary little patch over my non-master eye, my left eye, which will obscure my direct vision of the sights. I also have a set of glasses which are Champion, I call the Maker's Champion. They have a translucent eye covering. Sometimes that will work for you, sometimes not. With my glasses I use for NPA, as my understanding the rule is you can't have eye covering. I've done it a little bit differently. My left lens is for distance. My master eye is adjusted for focusing at a shorter range. And you'll find that your eyes have no problem accommodating with just a modicum of practice. What I do, I've got another set of spectacles I use as well. Once again, here we have patch over left eye, open right. Okay, let's talk about some stance issues. And let's start off with one-handed approach. The general guideline is stand approximately 45 degrees to your target. Camera is my target. And if necessary, move your feet. How do we do that? So, get your left hand in your pocket or hook it in your belt, whatever's going to be comfortable. Get it out of the way. You don't want to be doing this or holding it, letting it just hang. Let it support itself. Just relax. You don't want to think about it. So from your position at 45 degrees, look towards your target, close your eye, and raise your shooting arm. And where are you relative to the target? If, for example, I was to the right of the target, make it like that, move back foot. So you're moving, I mean, you can't see in this video, you can't see my feet, fortunately for you, but I'm moving in my case, left foot either forward or back. And then you repeat the exercise. Look at your target, close your eyes, come up. Where are you? Are you there? Great. Now I've noticed some people, they'll actually do that and mark the ground with a piece of chalk. I don't recommend that for the simple reason in the course of a day's shooting or even one event, your natural posture does change. You get tired, maybe you get stressed. So rather just use the actual check it method because it doesn't have to be so rigid. The other thing is shoulders. You've got quite a lot of movement in a shoulder. It's an interesting joint. So some people will do this. Now the problem with that, you've got a lot of tension in this shoulder. My recommendation is stand relaxed, shoulders down, and just lift. And that's all, just a lift. So you're coming straight up. Likewise with your head. From this position at 45 degrees, turn your head to face the target as square as possible and just come up. That's got another advantage. You'll know that your lenses have an optical center. That's where you get the best acuity in your spectacles, and you want to bring that to bear as much as possible. So head up. Sometimes when we're tired, I know I do it. I get tired and I drop my head. Not a great idea, because once again you're doing different things, you're looking through different parts of your glasses, creates other sort of issues. So you just want to be there, up, bang. Okay, let's talk about grips for a second. Now, let me just grab my very clunky old CZ here. The basis of any grip is what they call a fore and aft grip, where to start off with, hold gun in left hand, make a V with your thumb and forefinger, jam it in as high and as hard as possible. Then you close these three fingers around it. So you're getting that movement. Your fingertips don't necessarily have to come back because your grip is from the front strap to the back strap. That's your key. Thumb relaxed, free. Depending on the design of the grip you've got, on the gun you've got, there's a couple of anomalies sometimes. And your trigger finger should be in a position on your first digit to come straight back. So if I turn it around, you can probably see it. It's also not touching the side of the frame. The only place it's touching is the trigger itself. And I'm in a position now to pull straight back. So if I'm coming up for a shot, what am I telling myself? I want to pull that trigger straight back. You can visualize it as if you're pulling it towards your eye. We'll talk about trigger control and a few different things in a moment. If you're, once again, depending on your size of your hand, the grip, etc., you might have to adjust that in or out a little bit, but you want that movement coming straight back as much as is humanly possible. And as I say, thumb relaxed. Okay, let's have a look at something a little bit different. We talk about orthopedic grips. Everyone, newcomers to the sport may look at an orthopedic grip and say, wow, that makes it look so easy. Well, what does it do? Yes, it's more comfortable. But most importantly, the function of an orthopedic grip is to ensure that you grip it consistently. You're gripping in the same way. What's the point here? Just as I move my feet to line up my body, I also need to line up my grip. Once again, same routine. Look at target, close eyes, come up. And where is the front sight in relation to the back sight? If it is, for example, to the right of in other words, like that, then you move your grip slightly around. Take a grip again and check. Close eyes, come up. Where are you? Left or right or center? Now, depending on which grip you've, this has got quite a steep grip angle. That CZ had a very upright grip angle. That's not too much of an issue, because remember, you're going to be locking your wrist, locking your elbow, and bring it out, or rather up. Okay, how firmly do you grip? Very important. You want to grip as firmly as you can. Now, obviously, you can grip as hard as you can, depending how strong you are. That's not so much of an issue. What is an issue is you grip nice and firmly, maybe grip as hard as you can, still starts to quiver, then back off. Okay? Now, I caught myself doing a really strange thing recently. I was coming up, and in the course of the aiming and taking up the trigger pressure and releasing the shot, I realized afterwards I was actually easing up on my grip. Now that leads to huge inconsistencies. It's really not a great idea. As far as grips go, there are a few anomalies out there. Here's a particularly large one. This little fella, for those of us who shoot black powder, I don't know what size these cowboys were in the old days when they designed these firearms, but these are most awkward guns to shoot. However, so what you've got to do is think about what you're going to do. Once again, grip, get your 3 fingers around fairly high. You can't grip normally with this thing. Look at my thumb, look how tiny the grip is. Get your thumb down there a little bit. What I do is I'm actually pulling the trigger with the second digit of that, the second segment of my finger. And now that's enabling it to come nice and back, straight back, without any further problem. Now that's just these are anomalies, but you've got to make do with what you've got. And that's the most important thing. So we've spoken about lining your feet up, lining your sights up in terms of the grip, taking a good firm grip, locking the wrist and elbow. Then you've got to start thinking in terms of, right, I'm going to come up and fire a shot. How am I going to do this? Now, whether you're shooting NPA or ISSF, you've got different, and service pistol is another example, for example, PPC, slightly different targets, but it's a similar process. You've got to pick an aiming area. Now this is a vital point. It's aiming area, not aiming point. Once you start thinking about a specific aiming point, you've got a problem. Because your focus of your eye jumps to the target. That's not a good thing, because it's your alignment of your sights which is absolutely critical. So if those fingers are my sights and I'm moving them around a little bit in an area, in my case I aim below the black in the white, that's fine. It might not be a 10, but it'll be a 9, everything, if I get the shot off nice and cleanly, no problem. But if my focus jumps onto the target, my alignment goes out, that shot is going to be wild and woolly. Not a good thing. Because of course the object is to watch the front sight. So if you think about the basics of shooting, you tell a newcomer, oh, it's okay, just watch your front sight, keep everything in line, squeeze the trigger till the shot breaks, Bob's your uncle. Yeah, but our minds play some tricks with us. Sometimes it's not quite so simple, because our minds wander and we worry and we get tentative with our trigger. Talking about trigger, I think if there's one thing that messes up most shots for most people, it's this guy, the bad finger trigger pull. So, because particularly if we anticipate the shot, we're going to snatch on that, jerk on that. Instead of a progressive pull, we're going to do something. As we do that, it's either going to go high right or snatch low left. Those are the most common areas. A couple of other things as well. For example, your thumb pressure, often will chuck it right. But let's think trigger. We've got to get that trigger, as I said, coming straight back. Right? That's the first part. That's the first battle. Up in aiming area, get your sights aligned. Get the pressure on the trigger and keep it. Don't be tentative. On, off, on, off, on, off. Come down. Just relax. You don't want to hold too long anyway. Try max 10 seconds. Come up. In the aiming area, I take up the slack down here. And we'll talk about the rapid fire stages later. Excuse me. Come up. Apply the pressure until that shot goes. Keep it going. Keep the pressure on. Bang. End of story. So, just remember, aiming areas. I can't overemphasize this enough. People get fixated by thinking about an aiming point, a spot. If you're going to use an aiming spot, you're going to have a problem. Because once again, as I say, your focus will jump. Sometimes people ask me about breathing. Well, you don't want to be breathing while you're holding. As I come down, what I do, I half fill my lungs, and maybe even a little bit further on the way up. And hold your breath. You're only holding for about 10 seconds. It's not going to make you turn blue. Once you are up and everything's fine, the shot's broken, what do you do from then? Follow through. Keep watching that front sight. Watch it through the recoil. And if you're shooting a rapid fire string, you need to pick that up anyway, because you need to fire the next shot. So it's up, watch the front sight, bang, follow through. I know it's a weakness of mine, a terrible habit. And these things are habits, and you can break it through dry firing. Of course, the overholding is another big no-no. We come up and we're waffling and our mind's going, and yes, it's there, no, it's not, take off the and by the next thing we look, it's 15-20 seconds, by which time your vision's deteriorating, your muscles are starting to twitch a little bit. Not a great thing. Okay, so everything's gone all fine. You're going to think, wow, that was a good shot or bad shot. Now that's the important thing. If you're watching those sights properly, you should be able to call the shot. Not so much in terms of scoring ring, but certainly in terms of direction. That was high, that was low, that was left, that was right, whatever. Up, watch your sights, bang, follow through. Where was that shot? That's what you need to ask yourself. How did that go? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? That is why you've got a spotting scope. That's the only reason, just to check the shot. Don't score as you go. It's a huge thing, because you start worrying about score. You've got, in a competition, there will be a whole routine for that target to be scored. You don't have to score it. You need to believe in the system. If you want, just take a picture of it maybe before it comes off the frame. But don't think score. Don't, because it takes your mind off what you're supposed to be doing. If we think about coming up and being up there, what am I doing? I'm canting. Now, sometimes it creeps in when you're tired. You unconsciously, your hand drifts over a little bit. And what will happen, in this case, I'm canting to the left. That shot's going to go quite a bit to the left. So just be careful of this. Remember, part of your routine, part of your getting your sight picture is getting things aligned. Don't rush it. Just be constant. So eventually you'll find your whole shot routine will be almost subconscious. Up, aiming area, watch your sights, get the trigger going, bang. Right, let's talk about what I started off talking about, dry firing. Now, dry firing is probably the most important exercise you can do to improve your scores, to be a better shot. And once again, as with live firing, it's not how many shots you fire. It's about the concentration that goes into those shots. If you are able to spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes max coming up and doing some dry fire routines and doing them well, focusing on what you want to focus on, your sight picture, your trigger release, and it's going well, that's fine. Leave it. It doesn't have to take long. You don't have to spend days doing it. It's in fact counterproductive because one's mind gets distracted with other things. Now, to me, there are two angles on dry firing, with an aiming point and without an aiming point. I tend myself to usually start off without an aiming point, blank wall, coming up and just looking at sight picture and trigger control, click. Sight picture, trigger control, click. That's it. That's what I want to do. That's my primary objective. Now, of course, the other funny story about it is a friend of mine once said, when it comes to dry firing, he gets 10s every time. Well, yeah. But the more dry firing that you do, the more 10s you're going to get on the range. The other aspect to dry firing is actually a holding exercise where you put up a little target, nothing big. You want it, but it must be something specific. But what you want to do is come up and hold against that point, and it's really a holding exercise to generate control over those muscles. Another thing you might want to do is add a weight. Doesn't matter, you can just put a tin in a paper bag and slip it over your arm. So when you raise the pistol, you've got an additional weight on it just to add the resistance and get your muscles used to moving like they are. Okay. Once again, trigger control, trigger control, trigger control. That's absolutely crucial. Are your sights jumping when that shot breaks, when the hammer falls, or whatever type of gun it is? If it is, you need to work. You need to work on that so that it becomes smoother, to the point where I've never been able to do this, but according to the old American NRA shooters, and those guys are really good, they were basically shooting Colt 45s on up to 50 yards. They'd put a coin on the front sight and bring this thing up. Well, I can't even get the coin on the front sight these days, but anyway. But it does demonstrate the process that you should go through. Okay, if we look at different courses of fire, we're shooting rapid fire or free pistol and ISSF, we're shooting various NPA or PPC events. I said that there's no intrinsic difference between the two. Yes, with NPA or PPC, your gun is a little bit closer to your eye, so that changes your perspective of sight alignment for a start. But your grip's essentially the same. When you're coming up, you want to be aligned, you want to be there, right up. Bang. And you're not standing oblique, you're standing pretty much square on. When it comes to rapid fire events or faster events, because we don't practice it enough, we tend to be a bit apprehensive about it. Particularly something like rapid fire pistol, where you've got to, probably one of the fastest events, you really got to move. Or dueling, 373, which comes into a couple of events. And it's about preparing yourself, practicing the vertical raise. Now the vertical raise is quite interesting because when you're shooting deliberate, it doesn't matter if you do this, go above the target and settle, it's fine, it's not a problem. When you're shooting a 10-second string, you can't do that, you don't have time to mess about. So it's up and bang, up and bang. So we can actually spend a bit of time in the future going through these various things, particularly for rapid fire pistol, where you've got the vertical raise and the horizontal swing, which is not just that, by the way. It's got to be chopped up, but we'll go into that some other thing. Routines. You've got to have a set routine for yourself. Everybody's a little bit different. But if you're thinking about ISSF and your range commands, so you get the command load. I start my stopwatch because I know in a minute's time they're going to say attention. And I don't want to be waiting around, when is this attention going to come? So the way I do it, start my clock, load, do all my stuff, check everything's fed through, first shot's fed through, nice, good. Do some exercise, make sure I'm lined up nicely. When it's getting towards the end of that minute and tension's going to come up, I will try and be up there. Attention, get your hand down below 45 degrees. Then I know that in 7 seconds from attention, the target's going to face me. Rather than being higgledy-piggledy all over it's about a routine, and whatever works for you in setting up that routine. Just remember with NPA, yes, you've got two hands, great stuff. What's the difference? Not a lot, as I said. But your gun is a little bit closer to you. So just you've got to focus even more on your sight alignment, because those little errors, as the thing comes closer to your face, as the sights become a bit closer, are not sometimes so obvious. Also, your aiming areas are different colors. Okay, hopefully you find this to be of some use or interest. If there's anything that you want to cover more specifically, give me a shout and we can get into it. We're all locked down at the moment, so we can't do it on the range for a while, and we're not quite sure when this is going to happen. But let's keep our sport alive for us and our interest going, and let's try and have some fun in a somewhat different environment. Thanks.